107.3 FM. Starting to get a little bit of movement and activity over here at the Crown Plaza Hotel for LABI's annual meeting, and that's exactly what we're talking about right now. Jude Melville is the CEO of B1 Bank and the incoming board chair for LABI. Jude, welcome aboard, man. How are you?
Good. Good morning. Thank you for having me.
No, glad to have you on here. We got a couple of different things to talk about. Let's start with your role as incoming board chair.
Sure.
What made you want this gig?
A couple things. One is that I just like being around business people. I think interacting with them has always made me better as a person, and so being involved selfishly with LABI, get to be around a lot of business people, and over the years, as I've been involved for about a decade, I've had a lot of role models and heroes, and that's been a good thing for me personally. More importantly, on the bigger picture, LABI is perhaps the most impactful of the industry groups that exist in Louisiana. So if I want to spend my time making a difference, this is the one that I think that will leverage that time the best. So.
Yeah, and as the state's Chamber of Commerce, they're able to flex that impact throughout,
sure.
Which is kind of where I want to go next. B1 Bank, I mean, huge footprint in Baton Rouge, right? Mm-hmm. You're a Shreveport guy, though.
Well, we like to say Bossier, but
okay.
right next to Shreveport. If you ever meet anybody from Bossier, it's always Bossier, not Shreveport.
My connection's Jacob Hester, so he works with us.
He was Shreveport.
Yeah, okay, so
Shreveport.
He'll shout 31831 great all day long, and we let him do his thing.
I've still got my 318 area code on my cell phone, so
awesome.
I'm a big believer in North Louisiana.
So, let's talk about the different challenges that from a business perspective, the different challenges that North Louisiana faces versus Southern Louisiana.
Well, I think certainly there are different industry mixes in each of the different areas of the state, and really it's not even South Louisiana, right? South Louisiana is 3 or 4 different economic regions. Louisiana is has such a variety of people and businesses and cultures, and so there's certainly differences in terms of the industry. There are also some challenges that North Louisiana faces with population migration or out-migration that's probably a little more exacerbated than in South Louisiana. But I think all in all, one of the bigger problems that we've faced as a state over the decades is thinking too much about North versus South.
Yeah.
We're one state. Our fortunes are linked ultimately, and one of the things that I've enjoyed about B1 is being able to kind of cross that bridge, and we have locations all over the state and in Texas, and being able to kind of be a unifying force is something that's important to me, and something that's important to LABI as well, acting as one voice for a diverse state.
We are talking with Jude Melville, the CEO of B1 Bank. Let's talk a little bit about B1 Bank. I mean, we'll be back in LABI in a minute.
I appreciate that.
Banking today is taking on a different approach, that it's getting more and more specialized. It's getting more and more where you see. Yeah. What is y'all's approach? Who is y'all's target, and how do you serve them differently than others?
So we were founded on the idea that if we wanted to have the greatest impact, and if we wanted to play in the space in banking where we can have the best chance of being successful, it's in the small business, lower middle market businesses, and so our original name was actually Business First before it was B1. B1 was kind of shorthand that we used, and when we began to kind of make sure that our balance sheet and our client base is more robust, the B1 fits better for the consumer. But our focus is still businesses, and the thesis is that there are a lot of businesses out there that are a little too big, a little too complex, have a little bigger visions than they're able to get serviced by the really small local community banks. Community banks play a very, very important role, but there is a point at which some of their capacity is not enough for some growing businesses. So do they go to big banks? Well, big banks, small businesses aren't big enough to be on the radar. They're just a number, like you and I are at most consumer.
Well, and Louisiana's a small business state.
And Louisiana is almost all small business.
Yeah.
So we felt like there was a gap there that needed to be filled, and so that's what we try to do. And so we try to bring technology that a smaller bank may not be able to bring to the relationship, while still maintaining the relationship aspect.
Absolutely. We are talking with Jude Melville, the CEO of B1 Bank.
One thing, Brian, I wanted to mention, if you don't mind, is that
Have at it.
most people think the banks kind of spring from the earth, fully grown. um, but we were founded 17 years ago in February, this past
Okay.
February, here in Baton Rouge, and then have grown to we're about $6 billion in footings and about 750 employees across Louisiana and parts of Texas, and it's been an entrepreneurial journey. So one of the things that we like to offer our clients is some understanding of that journey and the challenges and opportunities that they face as they grow their businesses. And we've done it, still doing it. Hopefully, we'll do it for a long time to come. But that's a bit different than most people's conception of what a bank is.
No, yeah, I would imagine so. And I've got so many more questions about B1 Bank, but we're going to have to bring it back around
Yeah, sure.
to LABI.
Especially with Steven standing right
right?
there.
Yeah, no, we need to do that. But actually, one more on B1 Bank. You talk about the difference between the community bank and the big, national banks. We all learned firsthand through COVID, and anybody who went through the PPP process, the difference was all the difference. I heard
Right.
story after story after story that the businesses that needed help and had someone they could call
Right.
by name,
Right.
not by enter one after this or two after this, someone they could call by name ended up thriving on the back end versus those who just got lost in the
They
weeds.
were just a number, right? So which just proves our thesis. Yeah, the response that community banks had during the pandemic is something that we should be proud of the rest of our careers. And
Absolutely.
when I was first getting started in banking and we started the bank, it was at the beginning of the great financial crisis. And banks kind of got a bad name, right? Because they were all kind of lumped together by politicians, and it became kind of a negative thing to be a bank. And the PPP experience was a chance for us to kind of reset the story a little bit. But one thing that I would really emphasize for your listeners there is you said something important, which was many of the clients that were helped, and we ended up helping clients that we didn't know that were kind of stuck in the big bank
Yeah.
vortex. But the ability for us to help quickly, early, was empowered by the fact that we already knew each other.
Right.
So I would encourage your clients or your listeners to establish relationships with bankers before they need them, right? So that
Absolutely.
they can be there when that need really comes up.
So you take your banking background, you take your relationships with businesses, you take what you've seen from their wants, needs, and desires on the banking end, move it over to LABI. How do you plan on implementing that knowledge base and skill set into your new role as board chair?
Well, it's a very similar process. It's listening, trying to be receptive, trying to be flexible. A lot of industry groups kind of say this is our agenda. One thing Stephen and the crew here at LABI have done a great job of is saying, hey, let's develop our agenda together.
Yeah.
So, that happens through at LABI on a regular basis. It happens in our issues councils. So we have a number of councils that small business owners and managers sit on to help form our agenda. And then this year in particular, we're starting a project called LA23, which I know you've heard of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so, as a state, we need a bold vision, and then we need to come back and see how we're doing against our execution on that business, right? And we'll hear from the gubernatorial candidates today, and I'm sure many of them will have their plans. But I'm really excited about hearing about our plans.
Yeah.
What are the members of the LABI and the companies they represent actually think that we need to do to win? And so the whole process of LABI is geared around having a conversation.
We're talking with Jude Melville for another minute or so. And I greatly appreciate your time this morning. I know
Sure.
things are starting to crank
Yeah,
up
it's
right
great.
now, and
It's
everybody's
exciting.
getting after it. Yeah, it's a fun day. So what is it you're most looking forward to today? Is it the gubernatorial panel? Is it the morning session with Ted Abernathy and Stephen Morey and Stephen Barnes? Or
Yeah, well, to be honest, it's the thing I'm looking forward to the most is just interacting with all the people here. I think we're going to have about 1,100 people at lunch.
That's what Stephen said, yeah.
And so interacting with those
1 minute.
business people is very exciting. I do think the panel, with Stephen coming back home, Stephen Morey and Ted, is going to be educational, which would be great. And anytime you have people running for governor, that might be a little more platitudinal. But I do. So I'm not sure how much practical I'll get from that, but I am looking forward to the kind of the sneak peek and seeing what happens from there.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I'm putting together a team
30.
of guys. while Stephen Morey's in town, we're just putting a pillowcase over his head.
Just kidnapping him, bringing him
we're
back
keeping
home.
him.
Yeah.
Can we do that? You in?
It's worth trying.
All
worth
right.
trying.
He is Jude Melville, the CEO of B1 Bank and the incoming board chair for the Louisiana Association of Business and Industry.
15.
I appreciate a couple minutes this morning, man.
Yep. No, enjoyed it. Thanks
Absolutely.
for the time.
We got to take a quick break. We're going to check ABC.
10.